you know we are about to clock in if there are notes, and there are notes. If I'm being completely honest, it is not required for you to do a Black Friday or Cyber Monday or holiday campaign to end off any year. But it is a time where a lot of people are primed and ready to buy. The con is that it is one of the noisiest times online. So if you're going to do a campaign, it has to be a good one. So I'm gonna break down the sales content plan step by step so you know exactly how to prep, what to focus on, and what type of content to create to drive sales. And this video is sponsored by Teachable, the platform I use to launch my first course. More on that later. Part 1 is the prep phase, and this should be at least 60 or 90 days before your actual launch. This is the step that is probably going to take you the most amount of time, but you do not want to skip because it essentially is going to be the foundation of the rest of your campaign. The first thing you want to do is decide on the offer that you're wanting to focus on for this campaign. And I feel like everyone has their own opinions on this, but I think that it should be a completed or finished offer. There is nothing harder than writing sales content and copy and creating videos about something that literally is not existing yet. So if this is something new, you're launching your first course, your first digital product, love that for you. I need you to finish it first before we start prepping for the launch. Some things that I like to do when I'm deciding on my offer or the details of the campaign is maybe you're offering a bonus that people can only get during this launch or something that's a new bonus. This also could be discounting your offers, which I like to do sparingly, whether it's a percentage off or some type of deal where they're saving money. You want to be very selective on when you're doing this because it really can train people to only buy when things are on sale, which is definitely not our goal. You also can just lean into the why now, which we're going to talk a lot about when we get into launch content, but you don't need to add shiny new things for you to entice people to purchase and join now. A really simple example of this is if you're launching a group coaching program in Q4 during Black Friday, the angle could be to work on whatever it is that's in that program by the end of the year, or that you have a plan or a strategy going into the new year. So you can make things feel exclusive and urgent without having to make deadlines up or put your offer on sale. And even if you're launching a new offer, typically it just being new is enough. But maybe if you're one of the first members, you can lock in a certain rate or get a specific thing when you join. So you can also add that on top. So decide on the offer, but also decide on what maybe makes it special, whether it's the angle or something that people are getting. I would say most industries, this is the top time of the year to land partnerships or to make affiliate sales, whether you're wanting to curate things on an Amazon storefront, if you're wanting to share your affiliate links for products that you already love and use and get a commission for and your audience gets a deal for. I also find that a lot of affiliate programs have even higher commissions or even bonuses during this time of year. So just know you don't need to have an offer to take what I'm talking about and use it to drive more sales during a campaign or even at the end of the year. As a creator, it's important to anticipate these moments so you can be pitching, you can be ideating, you can be prepping ahead of time so you're not like sat on Black Friday week like, oh, I should like pull together my favorite affiliate links that are on sale. Like you want to prep ahead of time just like you would for an offer launch. One of the biggest mistakes people make when prepping for a Black Friday campaign or really any launch is leaving the actual offer until the last minute. My rule, finish your offer first, then worry about the content. That's where Teachable comes in. Teachable is the platform I used to launch my very first course, which completely changed my business. And it's still one of my favorite tools because it makes setting up your offer so simple. You can host digital products, whether it's a course, a workshop, or even a bundle of all of that without needing complicated tech. You also can easily create coupons for your Black Friday and Cyber Monday promos, or add in a bonus for your launch campaign. And if you don't have a website or sales page, Teachable can even serve as your checkout page. So you have a polished and professional link to share in all of your content. What I love is that once your offer is set up, it becomes the hub for your entire campaign. Every piece of content you create, including your reels, your stories, your emails, will drive people to Teachable, where you can can deliver on your offer and give your audience so much value beyond just your content. So if you're planning a holiday sale or even your next launch any time of the year, I highly recommend checking out Teachable for your course and digital products. So if you're ready to build, sell, and scale smarter, download Teachable's free Modern Course Creator Playbook, a practical guide packed with strategies to help you simplify your systems, clarify your value, and create offers that actually sell. I'll link it in the description for you to download. The next thing is, now that you have your offer, you have the details about it, we want to create your launch timeline, because a big mistake I see people do is they just prep a ton of content without knowing how much content they actually really need to fill in the blanks from. So I recommend starting with actually your launch start date and like the close cart date. And then you're essentially going to work your way backwards from there. And remember, this should be like 60 to 90 days out. This should not be next week. Then from there, you'll know how much content you need during the pre-launch and launch period, which we're going to talk about in the next part. And most importantly, you should be putting in actual deadlines for you to get the content and things for your launch done. So there should at least be 1 or 2 dedicated content days in your launch timeline where you can batch footage, where you can film videos, and where you can actually finalize and edit content so it's ready to go when you're launching. The biggest thing we're trying to do in this prep phase is make sure that we're hitting everything needed for a launch and we're not neglecting any part of it, so we actually are getting the best results, but also making sure that it's not launch week and you are overwhelmed and creating content and doing all these things that like you literally should not be doing during launch. At the very most, you should be doing like customer service, you should be doing like impromptu content, or you should literally not have to be doing anything. We want to prep as much as possible so it's as easy as possible. I have a free content calendar template that you can use to essentially start mapping out those launch dates and content timelines if you don't already have something. So like I said, start with your launch dates, your offers, the details, and then work your way back from there, which leads us into pre-launch content. So your pre-launch should be happening 2 to 4 weeks before you actually launch your offer. So when you're looking at that content calendar, 2 to 4 weeks of it should just be pre-launch content. And really our goal here is awareness about your offer, or just about the launch, the campaign, that something's coming, and to build as much hype and excitement as possible. I am a huge Pattern Beauty stan. Like, I love all their hair products. I love Tracee Ellis Ross for obvious reasons. And they were recently launching a totally new product line, and they were just teasing like little images, little information, little snippets without even saying what was launching. And I was sat. I was ready. I was ready to buy. It wasn't like they literally were like, hey, we now have a body care line. Like, they spent weeks of really warming us up and getting us excited for this. So it's really an essential part of your launch. You definitely want to be sharing teasers to get people curious, get people wondering what's coming, get people involved where they feel like they have some buy-in. Also, start to soft launch all of the fun details. Maybe it's the name of the product or the date that your launch is starting, or even just the behind the scenes and building in public moments of you actually working on the launch or creating the offer. I need you to be talking about it weekly, even if it feels repetitive. Keeping in mind, people aren't seeing all of your content, so you want as many touch points as possible when it comes to this offer. And even though I recommend 2 to 4 weeks where it's really dedicated to very specific pre-launch content, if you're launching something new, for example, or working on a really big project, no, this can start months ahead of time with just little teasers and little behind the scenes that you're sharing in your content. Things don't need to be done or complete or final for you to start bringing people into the process. During this time period, if you're wondering where you should be driving people to go, I think email marketing is the best thing to support your social media content. So even if it's a simple wait list where people can get notified when the launch actually happens, maybe you already have a freebie or a lead magnet that's related to the offer that can kind of get them started and get them excited. Or it can be as simple as like just joining your email list, knowing that they'll be the first to know when it actually drops. And when people are really, really excited, they want to know that they are going to be the first to know when it drops. Like they don't want to forget. And so you're doing them a service by really looping them in and allowing them to be ready for that next step. And this can be really simple to set up. I personally use Flowdesk for my email marketing. So if I was setting this up very simply, I would just create a very simple form, create a segment for that launch, maybe have a simple automated email that's sent out of like, hey, here's what's coming, here's the dates, here's what you need to know, we'll talk soon. And then they'll get my regular weekly emails from there. And then once I'm actually getting into like the launch or even a few days out before the launch, then I'll start sharing more about the offer then. If you're feeling stuck on how much pre-launch content you need or how long you should spend on pre-launch, it definitely can depend on your offer, your audience, but for a rule of thumb, if it's a lower ticket offer or something that's maybe already existing, the launch can be and probably should be shorter. But if maybe the offer is higher tickets, maybe like a few thousand or a few $100s, or if it's something that's totally new where people know nothing about it, you definitely want to give your pre-launch as much time as possible. We were actually just planning a launch for one of our clients, and essentially how we were planning it, it's an existing offer, it's higher ticket, and what we essentially had is 2 weeks before, we were essentially teasing the warm-up event that was going to actually lead into the launch. We were saying that something's coming, getting people excited, and getting people thinking in a way where they would automatically know that this was for them when they actually joined. And the call to action was very simple: to join her email list. There's so many different types of content you can do during this time period, but we actually did a series, which you already know, I love me a good series, to really go deep on the topics that was going to be in that launch event. Then we spent another 2 weeks really focused on essentially pre-launching that event, but also what was going to come after it, the offer. And then just a week dedicated to the offer. Because it's an existing offer, because it's technically evergreen, we wanted to create as much ethical urgency as possible, knowing we didn't need as many touch points. And we're doing about 5 to 6 pieces of content a week during that time period. And that also is including daily stories. Just so you can kind of see how this works in action. There are 3 low-lift tips that I swear by when it comes to prepping your pre-launch and your launch content. The first is to repurpose existing messaging or copy that you've already created, maybe for a sales page or a checkout page. Maybe you're focusing on email marketing, which I highly recommend. It's a total non-negotiable for your launch. Essentially focus on going deep with that copy and getting really strong messaging, because that will inform the rest of the content you create, your ideas, your captions, text overlay, and even scripts. The next thing is to batch as much content as possible. I love to batch not only the video content, any pinned graphics, any content that's going on social media, but I also really love batching stories. It might not be 100% of my stories, because I feel like stories are a really great place during a launch or campaign to be fluid, where you're getting questions, there's common themes you're seeing from people that are joining. You can share when people are joining, right? Like there's things that can only happen during a launch. But I think it's really important that you are able to have those really foundational parts of your launch, like that open cart day, maybe when some bonuses are expiring, maybe when you're like closing cart. You really want to make sure you have those core things. So at the very least, if you do nothing else during your launch, you're hitting all of your bases. And the final thing is to prep all of your calls to action, any graphics, and even stock content that is dedicated towards this launch. I did a video all about your B-roll shot list and how to prep B-roll, which is a really great one to kind of complement what I'm sharing here, of like, you can do a dedicated content shoot like in your home office. It doesn't need to be anything really fancy, where you can literally batch all of the assets you'll need for this launch. So you can use those for stories and you can use those for quick videos. I've done launches in the past, not only for myself, but for clients, where it's been fully like text overlay B-roll style videos, and those convert. So just know this can be as low lift as you need it to be when you're prepping a lot of content, especially if you're new to launching and you don't have a huge library of content to pull from. But what I find really helpful is when I'm writing all my copy for things like email marketing, is I will save a lot of like the preview text and the PSs and just really strong core messaging I'm using consistently in my emails. And I actually like to save those in a document and use those for my captions as well. Just by being really smart with how we're using our content, it doesn't make us lazy. It actually helps you create better sales messaging, because you are consistently hitting home all the details people need to know about your offer. And that is the best way way to warm them up and get them ready to buy. Okay, now we are in launch week. This is where consistency and repetition is going to drive conversions because your audience should already be super, super warm from your pre-launch. I need you to talk about your offer way more than you think you should. Especially because I find that a launch is typically a week is like the sweet spot. And so we have very few touch points to really make sure people are hearing it, they're seeing it, and they're taking the next step. That is why I think having an extra touch point like email marketing is super supportive with social content because they're able to ideally see both or at least one of those platforms. So you want to build what I call ethical urgency. We're not making up countdown timers or deadlines or cart close dates that aren't actually happening. We want to really tell people why join now? Why not wait till next time? Why should they be taking action now instead of later? And this really means understanding the value that your offer has. Like, what are people struggling with? Where are they looking for support or solutions? And how does your offer provide that? Like I said, you can also play with the timeliness factor if that's related to your niche or industry. So if people are starting to plan for 2026, that's a natural ethical urgency element of you need to join now because you're joining before 2026, so you have your plan. So a few things that I like to make sure I'm doing during a launch is posting daily on my feed, but also in stories. Stories are great because people can reply, ask questions, you can directly link to things. And even though during a launch, you'll find that you're reaching a lot less people, you're going to be reaching your warmest people. So even if you feel like your story views like drop significantly, I find that the people that are watching during a launch are the people that are most likely the most interested in your offer. Also, make sure you're thinking about your profile experience. So when you're looking at your social media pages, do I know that your offer is available and then I can join it during a launch? So maybe one of the first pieces of content you create during a launch is something that you can pin to the top of your feed. Maybe you have a highlight of all of your stories from the launch so people can easily binge those and review information. Making sure that there's a call to action line in your bio and that you're making sure the link in your bio is as direct as possible to the offer, even if it's directly the sales page, and maybe you ditch something like a link tree or something that has a lot of different links involved. Something else that we like to do is have a mix of different types of content. So doing talking content, having testimonials, doing more storytelling things, doing more behind the scenes, doing things where they're actually talking about the offer, doing things where they're not talking about the offer at all. The more variety you have, the more you're able to create content for the different types of buyers and the ways that they consume content differently. I've already mentioned this, but I think it's such an important reminder during any launch, if you have a big, a small audience, super engaged audience, not very engaged audience, is that your reach and your engagement will be down typically during a launch. Unless you're launching something new and exciting and people are just like loving the excitement of it, regardless as if they're gonna ever buy, you should expect those numbers to be lower because that's not what we're focused on. We're focused on people joining your email list. We're focused on people going to the sales page. We're focused on people actually buying. So it's totally normal if your reach, your engagement is down a little bit more. You can still hit your launch goals. And the final part that I feel like everyone sleeps on and neglects is post-launch. These are the days and the weeks that are happening after your launch, and the biggest thing we don't want to do is launch and then ghost. Why? Because there's a big part of your audience that didn't buy, and part of those people might be totally warm, but for whatever reason, buying now just didn't make sense for them. So we want to make it as easy as possible for them to be interested in joining next time or joining what's available now, whether that's free or paid. In addition to that, depending on how many offers you have, how your audience is split up, some people might always just be community members and not buyers. So either way, you want to keep nurturing your audience even after cart closes and really driving that engagement and that reach back up again outside of a launch. So when you're doing your prep phase, you know how we did your prep phase for the pre-launch, for the launch, consider your post-launch too, because after a launch, it's very normal for you to want to take a little break. Maybe you're serving your clients or shipping out orders. You don't want to be okay, let me sit down and create more content. Focus on the lowest lift, easiest things. I have an entire video where I talk about the 3 types of content I create if I'm going for easy peasy, the easiest week of content ever. So definitely watch that for some more ideas. But a few other things you can consider for your post-launch content. Recapping your launch. This is kind of going into that building in public theme of what worked, what didn't work, what you're excited about, what you learned, maybe some lessons or musings that happened during that time. This also can be sharing people that purchased your offer. So maybe there's UGC people of using the products. Maybe it's you actually joining your first coaching calls or getting wins from people inside your offers. Add in that social proof right while it's happening. And that is your simple sales content plan, whether you're wanting to do a Cyber Monday, Black Friday, Q4 holiday campaign, or if you're literally wanting to launch anything, anytime. These are the essential steps and types of content that will help you see the best results from your campaign. I'm curious if you're watching this in real time. Are you doing Black Friday and Cyber Monday this year? I know I'm definitely not. I'm not planning on it, but I'm curious if you are. If you're looking for the perfect tool to help you launch your digital products, set up coupon codes, or even add on bonuses for a campaign, I highly recommend checking out Teachable, and I'll share a link below for you to try it out for yourself. And if you're looking for easy ways to create your launch content, I recommend watching this video next.